Fixez.com bringing you a repair video on an LG G2. Today's video, we're going to show you the steps necessary to remove and replace your G2's display assembly. Before we get started with our disassemble, let's review our suggested tools. Small Phillips screwdriver, plastic opening tools, a spudger, fine-tipped curved tweezers, precision knife set, a heat gun or a blow dryer. Let's begin our entry into the G2 by removing the rear cover first. You'll notice our G2 has a very tight seam around the perimeter holding that rear cover on. You can attack that rear cover either with a plastic opening tool, possibly your fingernail. We found that utilizing a razor blade or an X-Acto knife to begin the unlocking of the first clip causes the least amount of damage. Once we unlock that first clip, we continued around with our plastic opening tool until the rear cover is completely removed from the G2. With our rear cover removed, we can now work towards removing the loudspeaker. Let's start by removing the 5 Phillips screws that are securing the loudspeaker into the body of the phone. And with our screws removed, our loudspeaker is free to lift for removal. Next in line, we're going to work towards removing our dock port from our G2. We've got 7 Phillips screws securing the plastic protective cover over our motherboard. Let's go ahead and remove those screws, starting with the one and only black Phillips screw. With our single black and our 6 silver Phillips screws removed, we can now go ahead and pry off the plastic protective cover, revealing our motherboard. Let's make our way down towards the dock port and remove the 2 connections here, gently lifting to release them. As well as removing our 2 coaxial connections. Down here near the headphone jack is a microphone that's surrounded by a rubber grommet that is seated in its housing. Let's pry up on this rubber grommet to release it out of its housing so we don't cause damage to the microphone when we remove the dock port. Next, we've got a series of connections in and around the power and volume buttons. Let's start with this one on the side. And then we've got the actual connector for the power and volume buttons. Here we have one of our display assembly connections. And then here is our other side connection. At this point, we're going to utilize a spudger, and we're going to do quite a bit of prying on either side of the power and volume buttons. We're going to pry these 2 connections up. And you're going to continue your prying down each side, gently peeling up the connections as you go all the way down to the dock port. And now we can finally work on gently prying up on the dock port itself, removing it from the securing adhesive until it's released from the G2. Let's go ahead and get the rear-facing camera out of the way, gently prying up on its connector to release it. We use our tweezers here to continue prying up at the camera to remove it from the phone. Next is our front-facing camera, lifting up on the connector to release it. Disconnect our two coaxial connections right here. Peel back our display assembly connection. We have another connection here we need to release. Our battery connection is next in line. At this time, our motherboard should be free to lift out of the phone. Removal of the earpiece speaker isn't totally necessary for display assembly repair, but we do it here as to not cause damage to it. Gently pry up on it with either a plastic opening tool or your tweezers. Your display assembly is secured with a small amount of adhesive. We utilize a heat gun or a blow dryer for about 1 to 2 minutes or so to warm up the adhesive and make it more pliable to remove the display assembly from its frame. We like to begin our separation of our touchscreen from the frame by utilizing a screwdriver in the hole for the front-facing camera, taking a firm grip of the frame and pushing on the back side of the display assembly through this hole. In our repair, because the crack was near the front-facing camera assembly, it didn't get us very far. We had to continue with our tweezers and a plastic opening tool, continuing the separation of the display all the way around the perimeter until it's removed from the frame. Let's go ahead and close up our G2 with our new display assembly. You're going to notice here in the white is our new adhesive strips. Fixez.com sends out free adhesive strips with all of your replacement parts. Let's start the removal of all of our protective covers. Don't forget the protective cover on the back of your LCD and display assembly. We can now fish through our bottom ribbon cable for our display assembly, lining it up to the frame appropriately, and then fish through our top ribbon cable. Once we don't have any of the ribbon wires pinched and we have our display assembly lined up, we can start to begin firmly pressing down around the entire perimeter of the display assembly utilizing heat additionally to secure the adhesive in place. Let's set our earpiece speaker back down into its housing. We can now bring in the motherboard and set it in place. Let's drop in our front-facing camera. Next is our rear-facing camera. And next, how about our dock port assembly? Careful when you're maneuvering the dock port assembly into place. Let's be mindful of our microphone as well as our connections for our display assembly. We can now start to secure all of our connections. Starting here with our side connection for our dock port assembly. Let's get our other side locked down here. Our display assembly connection here. Don't forget our side piece here for our dock port assembly ribbon wire. We've got two connections here down at the dock port assembly, one for our display assembly. And then our last connection right here. Let's not forget about the rubber grommet for the microphone and slide it into its housing. And now let's secure all of our coaxial cable connections. The plastic protective cover for the motherboard is next to snap into place. Let's secure that with the 6 silver and 1 black Phillips screws. Let's set our loudspeaker into the bottom of the phone and secure it down with the 5 Phillips screws. And our last piece is going to be the rear cover for our G2. Let's snap it down all the way around the perimeter, making sure each clip is securely in place. And we can power our G2 on now to show another successful repair by Fixez.com. All of the parts and tools you've seen today in this video are available at www.Fixez.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter.